Hi, this is Lee Thurburn, and today I have the pleasure of visiting with Carlos Cantu. Carlos is a commercial insurance broker, agent. He has his own business. And when I think of, an insurance expert, I got to tell you, Carlos is the guy that comes to the top of my mind. You're not probably ever going to find anybody, in my opinion, that knows more about insurance than Carlos. And so I'm excited to visit with him and find out a little bit more about the industry. Thank you, Carlos, for making time to visit today.
Well,
So,
thank you, Lee, too.
Carlos, first of all, tell me what it is after, how many years have you been doing this? It's been 20, 30 years. It's been a while. You probably don't even want to acknowledge that, but
yeah, it's 37 years now.
37 years. Okay. So anytime somebody's in a business for 37 years, they got to be doing something right. So my question for you is two things. One, why did you get into this? And what is it? Number two is what makes you, what still is exciting to you after 37 years?
What got me into this basically was my father. He was also an insurance agent. And at the time, he had moved from Sears Appliances to Allstate. And I saw the way he was doing his business and all that kind of situation. And I originally started, believe it or not, as a petroleum engineer. And the things got soft in that market and it was laid off. And then, I had to find something. So he offered me an opportunity to meet with the VP at that time with Allstate. And he basically said, pick the town you want. So going from a company that basically didn't want you anymore to, hey, we want your services. And the rest of it is history. I mean, it's just, went almost 16 years before I went independent. And, I got the training from both of what I call a captive company, which shows you the basics and then how to do things the right way. Then going as an independent, it was an easy transition because instead of having just one company to work with, I had dozens of companies. Not, I say that today. When we first started, it wasn't, but it's a situation where, especially while we talk about commercial, but I do personal lines too. But commercial has always been my favorite. I've always been intrigued of trying to find the solutions for my clients to see what's going on. Case in point, I just had one just recently here. She was trying to do a weekend, what do you call those things that vendors just come in there, people come and visit and all that. So they require insurance for that 3-day weekend. And after doing some investigation, talking to her real quickly, I said, okay, do you plan on doing any more of this? She says, yes. I says, well, rather than get a special event policy, go ahead and get a year policy, because that will apply to all the other times that you're having these events. And she was okay. And as it turned out, it was cheaper to do a year policy than to do a 3-day event.
Wow.
And that's what I get a kick out of doing is trying to figure out what is the best way to deal with the situation. As long as I get all the facts up front and everything out there, I can try and do it whatever I can to help them out. I'm not going to be the one that's going to say, okay, this is your only choice, take it or leave it. I try to explain to them why they need something or what they're looking for, how to avoid that. And I can honestly say, one of the things that I'm proud of is that sometimes I get to tell them what you have is great. I'm not going to take them away from a policy that's effective and does everything it needs to be doing. And I said, unless have problems with the service with that agency, stay put. And that's one of my, as you get long in the industry, you realize you got to do the right thing. You're not there to score a quick commission check off somebody like that, which is never really much, but I like having the reputation doing what's right.
One of the most interesting television commercials that I see insurance companies do is the one that they have like airplanes flying into the side of homes and, rams hitting the side of cars and, weird stuff happens that causes liability claims or causes damage claims. What are some of the strangest, claim circumstances that you've encountered over the course of your career?
Oh, one that stands out is really hilarious. I had this one contractor who installed washers and dryers and all that kind of situation, and they had installed this into this property here. About 2 weeks later, maybe 3 weeks later, something like that, the client calls in saying that the dryer had caught on fire, and that just really doesn't happen much. And I said, oh, first thought it could be a defective product and all that, because my client basically, you bring it in, plug it in, so there's nothing he's really touching. As it turned out, was the lady tried to dry some regular sneakers, not realizing there's plastic. And so she put them on full bore and overheated the place, and the plastic caught on fire, and on that situation. But what was weird was the tenant tried to file a claim, and he wasn't the owner of the property. So that was one of them. The other one was kind of a bad, I would say a bad situation where the client filed a claim that his personal property got burned up in a fire in the house. The only problem was that people saw him move all his contents out, and when the fire occurred, there was nothing in there. Even in total fire, there's going to be some residue of whatever's out there, and it just so happened he moved everything out. And so, I always want people to get paid when they deserve it. There is no if and or buts, and I will fight, make sure I will advise them what they can do. But at the same time, I don't put up with the other side. You're trying to get an extra deal. Clients like that do an installation job in a person's home, happen to scratch the floor and right at the entrance or something like that. They in turn then want the whole house flooring replaced. Doesn't work that way. And but at the same time, I've had people that said, you know what, never mind. It says, no, you are owed it, file it, and we'll do the right thing. So that's a little bit on the crazy. There's probably been more, but right now,
Well, that's good. That's good. So regarding commercial insurance, what are the what are the kinds of businesses that you enjoy doing business with most? Or is there like an industry like restaurants or contractors? I mean, is there a particular segment of the business market that you really particularly like working with, or is it just kind of all the same to you?
I mean, part of it is it's all the same. I love the challenge of getting something new. Plus, if I don't, it gets monotonous after a while. But we tend to gravitate towards the contractors. And as a result of that, I will say contractors haven't had a good reputation because they say, oh, they don't pay their insurance premiums, they don't do this and all that. But what it really has come down to, what I've seen, is they haven't been educated when it comes to insurance, how to use it. There's one big key on most contracts. End of 12 months, of the end of the policy period, there's generally an audit to see how much either they had in payroll or how much they had in gross receipts. And in the past, a lot of them would just ignore it and just go to another company, go to another company. And I said, no, if you keep doing that, you're going to eventually run out of companies that want to do business with you. And I explained to them why they do that. I says, look, this is based on what you tell them. If you underbid it, in other words, let's say 1 year you had $250,000 and you only told them up front $150,000, says, do you want to get paid on a claim? After that $150,000, supposedly I say, okay, come November, December, do you want those claim paid? He goes, well, yeah. I says, well, that's probably when you make that extra revenue. So what the insurance company has exposure. I said, what would you rather do, is pay the audit, which is a few $100s, or pay out that $50,000 claim? Which is it? And I think probably 99% of the contractors out there want to do the right thing. Again, it's just because they have not been educated as to what are the requirements and what do they need to do. And once we show them that, very rarely do we have any issues of them not paying it. So, again, they're thankful, they understand it. And then when the audit comes in there, we help them. It says, okay, here's what you got to get together, have it ready. And, with nowadays, with all the different, spreadsheet programs that you have for your payroll and everything, it should be just an instantaneous thing now. It says, put the dates from this date to this date, print them out. The auditor comes in, show them the numbers, and that's it. And you know what? These auditors that come in, they love it because they're prepared. And that's what I like getting them ready for.
We are living in one of the strangest times that I have ever seen in the course of my life. And I'm just wondering what kind of what kind of impact is all of the uncertainty and the volatile market swings and COVID? I mean, we just live in some pretty weird times. It's been a very weird last 18 months or so. What kind of impacts is this world we're living in right now? What's different relative to 5 or 10 years ago for your industry?
Well, obviously it slowed down. Now it's interesting, the contractors were still doing work, but not at the level that they were prior to the COVID. And everybody's kind of a little bit shaky whether to expand or not. I mean, the big when I say industrial, the investor groups that buy buildings and all that, they're back to the same ways. They're out there building high-rise towers and all this stuff. But the average person out there is still hesitant. How do you get around this? Do people really want to remodel? Do I want to get out of my house and for several months? Because the biggest thing I'm seeing now too is the delay factor. I mean, you may want to do a remodeling job right now, but it might be 3-6 months before you get it, not because they can't get the people in there. It's the material that comes in there. And then now you have the material costs increasing by 25, 50%, 100% more. So people are thinking twice about doing it. I mean, brand new homes now are $225 to $250 a square foot.
Yeah.
2 years ago, it easily could have been done for $100, $125. Now it's gone the other end, and it's just crazy trying to keep up with that.
Are there any unique risks that people in business need to be aware of with COVID and again, the crazy times that we're in? Are there any kind of new coverages that you're hearing asked about or being offered? Or is it really just kind of business as usual?
As far as the COVID, nobody's really asking anything because the government's laying the rules, or whether it's local or the national, they're laying the rules down as far as what needs to be done. And, I think once it settles down more, where it really becomes part of our flu season and all that, I think we're going to end up with the same situation where it's up to the client and I mean, the employer to decide what kind of situation, I am fortunate within my office. Anybody here that gets sick, even before COVID, I said, I've established a home office for them in there with the phone and everything. I said, don't come in. That's my biggest thing is if you're sick, feeling bad, don't come in. Because I saw it was happening. One would spread to another, and just keep circling around and circling around. I said, enough. And, it goes back to people taking accountability. I understand everybody needs the money to survive and keep on paying their bills. But if you're getting everybody else sick and it keeps going in endless motion, you can't keep operating as an owner. So, wear masks, don't come to work, whatever the case may be. That's, which everybody has to start looking at the different now. That's my field. There's a lot of them that they can't. They have to be inside the office and all that. That's fine. But if you're sick, wear a mask. Again, that's not, I'm talking about sick people that are coughing and wheezing.
So when somebody is looking to get coverage, are there any guide, sort of guiding questions or things that you would say, be sure and ask this about your coverage or your agent or the policy that's being written? Are there any general, sort of just cautions you would say, make sure you ask this or make sure you find out this?
I have done that in the past, especially with people that are going to keep their other policies. But when I lose someone and it's, say they were paying $2,000 with me and all of a sudden they found somebody at $500, there's something wrong. There's not that much disparity. The only thing I can say, they misclassified them. And that's fine. Unless you have a claim, they're not going to worry about that. But if they do get audited and they find out they put the wrong class, they can come back and adjust it. And all of a sudden it causes them to end up paying the full amount. And that, in my situation, that's the integrity of that agent willing to put himself at risk for a few bucks in his pocket at the risk of the client, instead of educating him, say, hey, this is what you're really doing. Do you really want to take that risk? And, some of them do it. I said, okay, that's fine. And that's not the type of client that I'm looking for. I'm looking guys says, look, I want to keep their costs as low as possible. But at the same time, I want to make sure that if they have a claim, there's not going to be a hassle. Okay, you reported it this way, but it really is this other way. And all of a sudden you go into a he said, she said, no. And I said, that other agent, I said, did he document anything saying that he explained anything to you? No. I said, well, that's the type, is that what you really want? And, you know, obviously it's up to the client. Ultimately, it's up to the client to decide what he's going to do. But, you know, in my situation, I'm not going to go that route. It has to be done right the first time, because the last thing I want is my client to have problems in the event of a claim.
I'm going to go out on a not very risky limb here and say I'm betting that you would be delighted to do a policy review with anybody that is concerned about whether they have a reasonable and or fairly priced coverage for the risk that they have. Is that correct? I mean, you'd be glad to talk with somebody and review their policy and let them know kind of whether they've got kind of the right coverage they need.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, it's not that hard. I don't have a problem with that, because I know exactly what to zero in once I ask a few questions on it. As a matter of fact, I've got one banker right now. He's starting to send all his clients to me to review them, with the understanding that I probably won't, you know, see any of them. Most of them won't come up for renewal for quite some time. So I don't mind that, because if I can give him advice to that client and it prevents them having some exposure not being covered, and they can then go back to their agent and say, ask them to ask what the cost of this coverage is. You know, there was one client, a friend, that recently just asked me a question about, okay, I've been preaching about umbrellas. And he says he wanted a quote, and it says, okay, who has your auto? Well, it was with a well-known company, both with the same carrier. I said, look, your best option is go back to that agent and ask him to quote you on there. And it's, you know, I know what he's thinking is, well, I could have gotten a business with that umbrella, but it's not the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. They need to package it all together at that situation. So I was glad that at least he heard what I said about the umbrella and chose to do something about it. He'll remember me down the road.
Sure. Folks, you don't know Carlos like I do. I'm just going to put a little plug in for him. He's a great guy. He's really, truly interested in making sure that you get the best program, the best deal, the best coverage, and we'll give you, you know, just straight up honest advice. Somewhere around this video, above, below, left, right, somewhere around this video, there's going to be a link to Carlos's website and contact information. If you think you even remotely might need to check your coverage or get coverage, Carlos is a good guy for you to visit with. Carlos, thank you for taking time today to spend a few minutes. It's always fun talking to you. Bye.
Thanks, Lee. Talk to you. Bye.